So let's see what we got here. 4 lands. That's a lot of lands, but still gonna keep it. Yeah, I mean, I would mulligan almost any 5 land hand. At 4 lands, you kind of have to decide. We have a threat in Swift Spear, one of our best threats. So kind of keeping on the back of that. So let's start on this Copperline Gorge and get going with the Swift Spear. We definitely don't want our opponent to play some sort of removal spell on our Swift Spear. That would be basically the worst case scenario. So we'll see what's happening here. And it looks like a sleight of hand. That could mean like a storm deck. Blue-red storm would be the most likely deck we're up against right now. So our draw step was Rift Bolt. I think we want to just go ahead and cast Boros Charm right now to get in essentially 6 points of damage for this turn. Yeah, I think that's our best option. And by 6, I mean the 4 from the Charm, and then the 2 from Monastery Swift Spear. So our opponent's under some pressure for sure. We'll see if they have something like a Pyromancer's Ascension. Yep. So it is possible that our opponent could have a turn 3 kill. So we've got a couple different lines we can take here to set up the win for next turn. And I think the one that I'm going to go with here is simply suspending Rift Bolt and then just attacking for 1 for this turn. And that way we're holding up Searing Blaze. So what that means is that if our opponent tries to play a Goblin Electromancer here, we are going to have the Searing Blaze to deal with it. On the flip side of that, it means that our opponent can afford to take damage from these Gitaxian probes. So we'll see exactly what's going on. But our opponent's going to need to try to find the win this turn. Or else we're just going to have enough burn to get the job done. Alternatively, our opponent could try to kill our Swift Spear with some combination of Grape Shots, but I'm not all that concerned about that right now. So this Sleight of Hand is going to add a counter to the Pyromancer's Ascension. And that's pretty important here. And it also means that, yeah, I mean, our opponent could fire a Grape Shot off on the Swift Spear. We'll see if that actually happens. Here's a Pyretic Ritual. And a second Pyretic Ritual is going to actually turn on the Pyromancer's Ascension. So we'll see if our opponent also has the Manamorphose. Which is basically the card, or Desperate Ravings, okay. So, Desperate Ravings is now going to get copied. So our opponent is pretty much looking for a Manamorphose to fully go off, it looks like. And, okay, so yeah, we see how the Goblin Electromancer got discarded, and the whole reason for holding up the Searing Blaze was to prevent an Electromancer from being played this turn. Unclear so far if it was completely worth it or not, but that's the line that we went with here. And okay, so it looks like our opponent basically bricked off, and so we are going to win on our turn. And that happens. I mean, cobbling together a turn 3 kill is not the easiest thing in the world. And so we actually drew an idol on one of our all-stars in this matchup, but we don't need it. We're just going to go ahead and cast this Rift Bolt and finish the job with the Swift Spear. So, yep. Alright. So, looking at the sideboard here, this is a matchup that is in favor of Burn. Our opponent was almost able to turn 3 us, was missing that Manamorphose basically to be able to do so. But we are going to be on the draw for game 2, so we want these Destructive Reveries for Pyromancer's Ascension. They are pretty important. And so we have to figure out exactly what we want to be taking out. The creatures are all pretty good in this matchup, except for we can afford to take out Grim Lavamancer. And then besides that, Rift Bolt is a card that we're fine with taking out, but we actually would rather take out the 4 copies of Searing Blaze, because besides the Goblin Electromancer, if our opponent doesn't have Electromancer like we saw that game, the Searing Blaze is just going to be basically a dead card. So we definitely don't want that. If we were on the play, I would say we would want the copies of Molten Rain. On the draw, though, we don't really need them. So we're just going to round out our deck with another Burn spell. And yep, this is what we're going to go with. So yeah, Searing Blaze is a card that comes out. It's great in any sort of creature-on-creature matchup, but it comes out in a lot of these combo, control-y type situations. Well, we don't have an Eidolon, which would be optimal, but we also don't really want to mulligan this hand. It's just a little bit too strong to mulligan. Any 2-land hand is basically normally what you're looking for. But since we're on the draw, we're kind of at the mercy a little bit to our opponent's hand. We don't have a Destructive Reverie, so we can't kill a Pyromancer's Ascension. So there's definitely some holes with the hand. But we have a pretty quick kill and a Goblin Guide to start things off. So Goblin Guide can allow our opponent to essentially draw cards. You see basically getting a free island in this situation, and that's one of the downsides to playing it, but it just provides such a quick clock where if we get in another hit next turn, our opponent's already at 15, and we've got 13 points of burn already in hand. So we'll see if our opponent does have something like a Lightning Bolt, but that's why I like playing the land first. If our opponent does go for a Bolt, we would have the option to then Boros Charm to give our guide indestructibility. And we see Goblin Electromancer on top of our opponent's deck. So I think we want to... we can either pass here or we can suspend a Rift Bolt. I think we want to just suspend a Rift Bolt here. Yeah, I like that the most. And then pass the turn. The Rift Bolt's going to come off suspend on our next turn, and it looks like our opponent is going to Thought Scour away that Goblin Electromancer. So we see our opponents filled up their graveyard a little bit. Empty the Warrens, some Electromancers, some Ascensions getting milled. But we're actually threatening a very fast kill. So we'll see exactly what our opponent's got here. I will basically, in order to win, our opponent's going to need to be able to go off with a big empty the Warrens, or here we see an Electromancer. So we have the option here with this Pyretic Ritual. We have the option of simply lightning bolting away the Electromancer, and that's a pretty attractive option. Just to be able to stop whatever shenanigans are going on here. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We're just going to go ahead and fetch and bolt away this Goblin Electromancer, just to hopefully be on the safe side here. If our opponent does have another Ritual plus an Empty the Warrens, for instance, that would be pretty bad news. Here we're seeing Manamorphose, so we're pretty happy this Manamorphose costs 2 rather than 3 mana. But it's possible that our opponent does have the means to combo off here, so we'll see. But it's pretty tough to go off without having an Electromancer normally, but if our opponent does simply cast Empty the Warrens here, that would be good. But it could just be a Grape Shot that's incoming. Our opponent's got 2 mana still in pool, and it looks like, yeah, once again our opponent just basically fizzled. So we're going to get to Rift Bolt our opponent down to 9, and then we're actually going to be able to win the game this turn. So all we have to do in order to do that is attack, and then we are going to go ahead and fire off our burn here. So Boar's Charm you, and finish the job with a lightning bolt. So that's going to be it.